What's good, family? So mash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. So we got some more breaking news right now. Your man's team Dillian the Shillian Shite have lashed out at Team Fury, insinuating that Fury's back end may be twitching at the thoughts of Dillian the Shillian Shite. Hearn said the following. He believes Tyson Fury could vacate his WBC title. Why? Because Tyson Fury and Tyson Fury's team are treating Dillian White like his name is Voldemort, the man who is not mentioned. We hear Tyson Fury talking about Anthony Johnston. I mean, listen, Tyson, I've covered quite a few videos over the last week. We've heard Fury dipping his wick in Anthony Johnston. We've heard Fury dipping his wick in Alexander Usyk. We've heard Fury dipping his wick in Francis Ngannou. And that's been consistent. Listen, Tyson Fury's been doing some consistent dip wicking. That's a fact. He's been doing some consistent wick dipping for the last week. Everyone listen, bottom line, squad spade here. Who hasn't Tyson Fury dipped his wick in it for the last week? Dillian White. We haven't heard him mention Dillian White. And that's what Eddie Hearn's saying. Eddie Hearn's saying that, number one, Tyson Fury cannot defend the WBC title in March. That's the first thing. The second thing is the fact that Tyson Fury is happy not to defend the WBC title and go chasing other fights like Usyk, like AJ, like Ngannou. And the fact he don't really want to, we haven't heard him mentioned specifically, and it wouldn't be so bad. If Tyson Fury was quiet with his family near Christmas or whatever, that's one thing. But the fact that Fury's been doing a whole bunch of wick dipping, yeah? Fury's been doing a whole bunch of wick dipping, putting his wick all over the place. Got a dirty wick, that's Fury. Yeah? I've been hearing from his family, I've been hearing from Paris, spoke to Paris the other day. She told me that truth is, YB, I'm getting kind of sick of Fury dipping his wick in all these dons. Yeah? She wants the wick back, although she don't want to have no more kids. So I'm hearing Paris tell me that she's kind of happy to some extent. She's happy that she ain't taking the wick because she don't want no more kids. That's what I'm hearing. So it's one of them ones. She's mad that Fury is out the house and playing away and dipping his wick in a whole bunch of men. But still, you know what I'm saying? One of them ones. 50-50 ones. She also appreciates the upside. But anyway, back to the point. Listen, you heard there from Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn saying Fury and his team are moving suspect, and they're shook, and their back end, yeah, what do you call it? Their sphincter, yeah, their rectal sphincter is essentially twitching. Have you ever seen? That's what you might don't appreciate. Have you ever seen? It's quite difficult to describe, but you know when someone cries and their bottom lip starts going. Imagine that, but on the other end, not the lip, on the other end, on the sphincter, on the rectal sphincter. That's what Team Dillian White are alleging is happening with Tyson Fury's bottom end. They're saying that bottom lip, yeah, that ring, his ring is essentially just doing that. It's not a massive movement. It's not a slap. It's not a gape. It's that little touching. That little, you know what I mean? It's that intricate movement. Twitching. That's what a twitch is, people, if you didn't know already. They're saying, Team Dillian the Shillian Shite, they're saying Tyson Fury's sphincter is, yeah, that purr, almost, that's the best word. The best word to describe it would be purring, yeah? Purring. They're saying Team Dillian the Shillian Shite are saying Tyson Fury's sphincter, yeah, is purring. Very soft. Very softly just twitching, yeah? At the thought of Dillian White. Because, listen, let's call it a spade here. Fury's had no problem having a go on Johnston, Anthony Johnston, AJ, having a go on Alexander Usyk, having a go on Francis Ngannou. So it is, I can't lie. If I sat here and told you, it is kind of head scratching that why is Fury leaving Dillian the Shillian Shite out? However, what I will say is, well, my answer to that is number one. Why is Tyson Fury leaving Dillian the Shillian Shite out? Is it because he's scared? I'd say to you, no. Why would I say no? Well, number one, I believe the reason Tyson Fury is leaving Dillian White out is because, guess what? He's actually sent that man an offer. Yes, one thing. Trash talking usually happens when you're not actually involved in, you know what I'm saying? Like, Team Eddie Hearn and Team Dillian White saying, oh, he's scared, they're not mentioning me. Listen, Eddie, It's one thing not mentioning you when you don't have an offer. It's another thing not mentioning you when you've got an offer on the table, you big muppets. Do you understand? Why would Fury be mentioning you when he knows you've said you don't want no offer, you don't want no deal? Bear in mind, people, that's the thing. Eddie Hearn's really lying, talking about, oh, we haven't, Team Fury are treating Dillian White like Voldemort. They ain't dare to mention him. What are you talking about? In the last week, Frank Warren and Bob Arum have begged Dillian to come to the table and stop playing games. So what do you mean he ain't mentioned him? Now, again, Fury hasn't directly mentioned Dillian, but guess what? He doesn't need to. There's an offer on the table. Why is it Tyson Fury gonna go chasing Dillian White around when he's already got an offer out there? Accept the offer. Let's crack on. Trash talking is usually for prospective bouts until something's signed. Why is Tyson? And that's the other thing. Tyson Fury ain't desperate to fight Dillian. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem. You see, Team Dillian White are confused. They think that Tyson Fury should be chasing him, and that says it all. Their attitude: I want $10 million. I want 60%. That shows you Team Dillian White are deluded into thinking they're the A side. Unfortunately, they do, and that's why Eddie Hearn's scratching his head, saying, "Oh, why isn't Tyson Fury chasing us like the B side he is?" Well, guess what? News to you, Team Dillian White. You're the D side, yeah. Unfortunately, about why isn't Tyson Fury mentioning my name? About why isn't the bona fide A side mentioning my name? What's wrong with these guys? Oh, Tyson Fury is scared of us because the A side isn't chasing us. Listen, Dillian, you are a D side fighter. How about that? You've not got an undefeated resume. You've not made more money than Fury in one fight. Yeah? You've not got no belts. Never had no belts. Been knocked out by old Dons. So what are you talking about? You've been knocked out by Big Feminine. Yeah? Anthony Feminine, Josh, Big Feminine, yeah? You got knocked out by Big Feminine. Bottom line, you got knocked out by Big Feminine, aka Big Femi. Yeah? That's what happened to you. Bruce Jenner's cousin, Mr. Big Feminine, did you wrong. That's it. That's your legacy is based on getting filled in by Big Feminine and then the Eastern European great uncle, Alexander Povetkin. That's your legacy, boss man. Yeah? About why isn't Tyson Fury chasing me around begging for this fight? Why isn't Tyson Fury mentioning me? You are a bum, shillian. This is your big fight. Get it in your head. These guys, it's all back to front these days, isn't it? Oh, Tyson Fury's scared of me because he's the A side and the A side isn't chased. Since when do A sides chase B sides? Only in Eddie Hearn's mind does this take place. Only there. And even then, Eddie Hearn knows deep down that it's bullshit because guess what? When he has the A side, when Eddie Hearn has the A side fighter, you know what I'm saying? He's happy for it to go the other way. No one in. It's Dillian White's obligation as the B-side who has no belt, who is not undefeated, who has not made more money. Dillian White should be the one begging for this fight. And in fact, it's ironic that Eddie Hearn's talking about, oh, Tyson Fury's back end's twitching because he's not mentioning us, and Tyson Fury's been mentioning everyone else and not us. That means he's scared of us and this, that, the other. Well, when you think about it, okay, fair enough. If that premise was correct, which is not, but if it was, I can throw it back to you, Eddie, and Team Dillian White. Why aren't you mentioning Fury then? Innit? Think about it. Why aren't you knocking the door down? In fact, Tyson Fury has been more vocal than you have. Well, Team Fury have been more vocal than you have. All you've done is say, we want 60% or we're going to court. That's all you've done. All you've done is moan and turn offers down. You've been offered, Dillian White categorically has been offered 50% higher or 50% higher than his highest ever guarantee. Yeah, that's a fact. You've been offered your highest ever payday. You've been offered more than what's been guaranteed by the WBC. Team Fury offered you 25 to 30% a month ago. Yeah? What have you done, Dillian? I don't see Dillian White banging the drum, begging for this fight. He gone missing. He's in court somewhere. Yeah? Dillian White doing some accountancy court. Dillian White doing some accountancy modules. He doing some, you know what I mean? He at university right now working out some laws and whatnot. That's what the issue when Dillian White's at. Mr. Big Brixton. Mr. Big Brixton gangster. Where are he at? Oh, well, we want to go to court because, I thought he was hard. That's what I thought. I don't know. You might tell me. I thought Dillian was the big hard back Brixton Donny. Well, actually, I think we'll go to court on this one. What? I thought you wanted your shot. I thought you was desperate for a shot. Oh, well, actually, no, I was desperate for a shot at getting something I'm not entitled to. I was desperate to get a shot at a rate which no mandatory ever gets paid at. I guarantee you there's never been a mandatory in the history of the WBC who's been paid 45%. But yet Dillian, a man who's been knocked out by everyone's had a go on him, even Big Feminine has had a go on you. And you want to talk about A-side, or 45%. Wow. And then you got the audacity to say about how Tyson Fury's scared of you. I'm sorry, I just don't see it myself. I really don't. And that's the thing. For a long time, I come on here, I made jokes about Fury, and Dillian White will do this, and AJ will do that. And some of you funny style dudes are confused. Oh, YB's a turncoat. YB. How come you're not talking about Dillian White having a go on Fury anymore? How come you're not having a go on Anthony Johnston? How come you're not saying AJ and Dillian White are going to do this and do that? Well, guess what? Dillian White, in the last few months, lost me. Yeah, he lost me. Because you were doing all the talking about what you can do and this, that, the other. I just want my shot. I've been blackballed. You get your shot, and then the goalposts have been moved. Well, actually, it's not just the shot I want. I want the shot, and I want to be paid double and a bit more than any other mandatory's been paid before. I'm sorry, people. It's 20%, 25% is good enough for everyone else. Caleb Plant, 20%. Yeah? Caleb Plant, 20% in the recent thing. Billy Joe Saunders, 20%. I think even less, to be honest. Billy Joe Saunders, and he was a champion as well, people. Billy Joe Saunders, all the people who fight Alvarez, yeah, get paid less than 20%. And they have belts. They're equal champions, do you understand? Equal champions get paid less than 20%. Alexander Usyk versus AJ, less than 25%. And a rematch clause thrown in. You want to talk about 45 for a man with no belt, not undefeated, not had no A-level wins? What planet are you on, Team Dillian Whyte? Seriously. And that's the thing, all you man talk about turncoat. Explain that to me. Explain where you're getting these numbers from. Explain how it can be more than 25%. I don't get it. I really don't. I'm sorry, I just don't. Everyone else is grateful. Usyk was grateful. Everyone else grateful for their shot at greatness. That's what people forget. This game isn't all you shills who talk about numbers and are more interested in Dillian. I had one guy say, I care more about, I'd rather not see the fight as long as Dillian gets 45%. If Dillian's not going to get 45%, I don't even want to see the fight. What? I'm about the sport. And that's what we've got so far from. The mandatory shot's not supposed to be about what you're getting paid. It's supposed to be about the opportunity to show what you're made of. Once you're champion, that's when you can start making it more about other things. Because guess what? At that point, you're champion. You are then the best in the world. There's nowhere up for you to go. Which means you can think about other things. Because in terms of the sport, you've solved the game. You've won the game. Okay, now, I'm the ultimate champion. What else can I do? Okay, let me change my goals now. Let me go chasing some money. Chase some coin. No one can knock that. Because you've completed the game. But this dude, Dillian, has done nothing in his career apart from be a bona fide C-level fighter. When you look at the entirety of Dillian Whyte here, you'd say C-level dude. That's what his actual accomplishments are. And the way he's carrying on as if he's undisputed champion, seriously. That's what he's like. Solely focused on the numbers. And then for them, man, to flip it round and talk about how Fury's scared. No, I think you're scared. I think you're scared of getting beat for 20% and having nothing to show for it. So you're thinking, well, wait there a minute. If I'm going to get filled in by Fury, let me do so and get paid something I'm not deserved. That's what you're doing now. Because never once really is Dillian actually... He does a lot of talking about how hard he is from Brixton. But really, when it comes to it, as in, when is Dillian actually put the work in? When is he actually delivered on a big A-level fight? We haven't seen it. We've seen him beat AJ's leftovers, like Joseph Parker barely. We've seen him go 50-50 with leftovers, but apart from that, he's never actually gone in there and beat Deontay Wilder, beat AJ, beat Fury. He ain't done it. And you can say that Deontay Wilder ducked him, fine. But that's the point. You've now got your shot. Mr. 34-year-old. Your career's half done as well, that's what I don't get. Dillian White's prepared to sit in court for a year, get another year older, for what? I mean, are these the actions of a man who believes, number one, he's got a bright future in the sport, number two, he's likely to win? It's just not, people. If he thought he could win, he'd have been begging for this fight to be in February, to get it on, because he'd be saying, wait a minute, I'm getting old, I know I'm going to win, so that means I better get this fight on ASAP, so I can become a champion and benefit from it. What you don't do if you think you're going to win is say, well, I'm going to die on this hill and die trying to get more percentages, no matter how long it takes. That's what you don't do at 34 years old if you think you're going to win. I back Tyson Fury's back end's twitching. So for me, I'm not doing it no more. I'm not going to sit here and... for too long, I boosted people up. I boosted Dillian White up, thinking he was a certain way. Oh, he's a Brixton killer. Then we find out, no, he's just worried about the coin. Johnston, another one. Give him too much credit. Goes in there. Runs away from Ruiz. Gets turned out by a cruiserweight. But it's only 2 losses. It's not about the 2 losses. It's about the principle of what happened. And that's the problem. There's so many people on the planet Earth who are just struggling for IQ. But he's only got 2 losses. Look how he lost. Oh, but YB, Lennox only lost twice. Lennox lost by getting caught. No one can really knock that. Losing by getting caught and coming back with a vengeance is different to losing in the Ruiz fight and then shitting your pants for 12 rounds and then losing to a cruiserweight and having no... It's not completely different. I'd rather him... If I could choose the current AJ career now or him getting caught twice and then coming back with vengeance in the rematches, I know what I'm going to take. Because Lennox Lewis's career shows clear he knew what time it was. And he came back accordingly. He did, bottom line, Lennox Lewis did his opponents worse than he got done. He put the fear of God into them. Do you think Andy Ruiz has had the fear of God put into him? And we're going to find out about Usyk, but best believe. We watched 12 rounds of soft-looking ass Johnson. Anyway, back to this Dillian Whyte situation. Listen, shillian. Listen, Mr. Shillian Whyte. Yeah? Let me tell you something else. In fact, I'll make this the last thing I say on this topic about why Tyson Fury ain't mentioning you. Never mind the fact that you've already got an offer. The bottom line is, he doesn't see you as that kind of guy. He don't see you as a Wilder, or a AJ, or a Usyk, or a Ngannou. Because guess what? All them people we mention have one thing in common. They've all held a belt. They've all got to that A level. All of them. AJ has held a belt. Usyk held a belt. Ngannou held a belt. Every single one has actually done something. And that's why. Lions chase lions. They don't chase whatever else you're talking about. Whatever Dillian Whyte is. Dillian, you're a C-level dude. Why would Mr. King of the A-levels right now be chasing, looking back at the D-level? Don't make no sense. That's why your name ain't being mentioned. Fury wants to associate his brand with people around his level. Obviously, why would he be looking? It's almost like Charles Martin saying, "Why isn't Tyson Fury calling me out?" That's what I see it seriously. Dillian White and Charles Martin are the same, or Ortiz and Dillian White are the same. If Ortiz started saying, "Why aren't people calling me out?" then I'll be confused too. And this really does, these comments from Team Dillian White really say a lot about why we're in the situation we're in. These guys have a huge estimation of their value that's wrong about why isn't the A-side chasing us. And the fact that the A-side isn't mentioning us and chasing us shows he doesn't want to fight and he's scared. And he's going to vacate. Come on, man. You can't write this, seriously. You can't write it, but it's not, from the sports point of view, this isn't a good sign, I'm afraid, folks. It's not a good sign because if this is their mentality, if they think that, you know what I mean? They really think it's, oh, well, yeah. And I'm not saying listen, Fury ain't the most consistent himself, but still, on this occasion, I don't know what you want me to say. Has Tyson Fury made ducky decisions in the past? Absolutely, but not here. Of all the different times Tyson Fury may have ducked some sort of event, guess what? All the things I've criticised Fury for in the past, yeah? Oh, Fury, why is he not sending no offers out? Guess what? For years, I said, why is it always AJ sending offers to people? And that's what I got. Now I'm laughing my head off thinking, the one time, of all the times you may be able to say Tyson Fury ducking, guess what? Team Fury are literally begging to send you an offer. But then you throw it back and say, oh, it's not the offer I want. So the fact that Team Fury aren't giving you the offer you want means that they're ducking. And bear in mind that it's not a low ball either. It's not like they've given you a number that is ridiculous. It's not like you haven't... Listen, you fought Povetkin for 10% of the amount. And Mr. Eddie Hearn, who talks about how valuable you are, but you weren't that valuable. You weren't valuable enough to have your Povetkin guarantees more than 400 grand, was you? Oops. Yeah? And that's what I don't rate about Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is responsible for the situation we're in right now. Because he knows Dillian White ain't worth a lick. That's why he hasn't guaranteed the numbers in the past. That's why he only offered £4 million 3 years ago. Can you believe that? Team Dillian White, Team Tyson Fury have added 50% on top of Eddie Hearn's offer from 3 years ago when Dillian was more undefeated. Can you believe that? And that's how you know Eddie Hearn's not being just here. You know Dillian ain't worth a lick. That's why when you had the A-side fire in AJ, you only offered him £4 million. And again, Dillian White turned it down, thinking he's some hot shit. It's a joker. He needs to understand. He got lucky with Sky pay-per-view in a big drought of boxing, really. Because all of Dillian White's fights, none of them should have been pay-per-views. They all should have been co-main, they all should have been chief second, in my opinion. Yeah? Parker versus White should have been on some AJ undercard. Chisora versus White should have been on some undercard. Call me a liar. Do you think they're really pay-per-view standalones? I don't. Same as Parker versus Chisora. That's not a standalone pay-per-view, I'm afraid. It's just not. All of these fights should be chief seconds in a normal market. Yeah? Look at the UFC. Since when do you have two dons with no belts headlining pay-per-views? You don't see it. And the reason the UFC is important to use is the fact that they've got a model, they've shown a business model that brings in hundreds of millions every year, which means it's efficient and effective. And that shows you what the people want. The people don't want to watch two dudes who ain't got no belts on a pay-per-view. And in fact, the only time we've seen a pay-per-view header has been Conor McGregor, who we know sells millions of pay-per-views and has been a double champion in the past. All of these things Dillian White knows nothing about I'm a pay-per-view star. You've scammed a living off pay-per-view, Dillian. That's what your legacy says. You haven't been in standalone pay-per-view events. You went. AJ and Dillian's the only standalone pay-per-view because of AJ. The rest of your fights are bogus. Fugazi. And that's why I'm so pushing for this fight to happen at 25%, because this is your real pay-per-view fight, Dillian. This is where we find out who you are. And talking about scared, is it a coincidence? The first time Dillian White genuinely gets his big shot he's been gagging for, he's found a way to make problems about it. He's found a way to complain. I think you're the one who's scared. I think you're scared, you've done all the talking, and now it's coming to backing it up. I think Dillian White felt quite safe and comfortable fighting bums for $1 million on pay-per-view. That's where I think he found his comfort. Now the reality of it all is he's thinking, oh shit, now I've actually got to do what I've been talking about. You know what, I don't really fancy it. I think I'll go back to fighting some bum no one's ever heard of, or fighting someone's great uncle. on pay-per-view somewhere. That's the bottom line, and it makes sense again. For years, I was saying, why isn't Dillian White suing the WBC when all the actions were happening that were blatantly unfair against him? And Dillian White didn't do anything. Why? Because, like I said, he was happy. It gave him cover. It kept him in the loop. It meant he could always attach his name to AJ and Deontay Wilder and Fury. Meanwhile, fighting bums on pay-per-view. And that's the only conclusion we can get. Is it a coincidence? The 1 minute he actually gets the big shot, all of a sudden he wants to take it to court. But he wasn't taking it to court when he was fighting all them bums on pay-per-view. He had no problem. Yeah. I think this, for me, is delaying tactics for Dillian. Dillian's delaying and trying to get something for nothing. Got nothing to do with Team Fury on this one. Yeah? Nothing at all. Team Fury are gagging to get in your knickers, Dillian shot. I told you before. Team Fury are gagging to wipe that dirty bum of yours. Yeah? Team Fury are gagging to wipe Dillian the shillian shot dirty bottom for him. It's all dirty looking. Fury fixing to wipe it for you. Yeah?